Hey friends, it is the 4th episode of Five Friday Faves, and I'm Laura Nicholson with the Turquoise Home, and I'm so glad that you're here to experience this vlogging action. I have started this in the beginning of 2018 to connect with you kind of face to face, like we're chatting, and I just have collected some of my favorite things to share with you today. First, before we get started, I wanted to share a new favorite thing that is not part of my Five Friday Faves. It is a new drink that I've discovered. It's this By Bubbles. By Bubbles, I think, yeah, it's called By Bubbles. But it's a sparkling antioxidant infusion. It's very delicious. And I've tried a bunch of the flavors, and this is my favorite. The reason I've started drinking this is because I've given up Diet Coke for the umpteenth time, but I swear I will never go back because it's so not good for you. But I need something fizzy in my life to replace it, at least for now. And so this Waikiki coconut lime tastes just like a dirty Diet Coke. I don't know if you know what a dirty Diet Coke is. I think I've posted about a dirty Diet Coke before, but it's a Diet Coke, and I get Diet Dr. Pepper, and it's at Sonic. You go to Sonic and you get coconut cream pie add-in and lime. It sounds amazing, and it is amazing. It tastes like the beach, but this is coconut and lime. It's so good. And it's sweetened with stevia and erythritol, which is, you know, the non-sugar sweetener. So you don't want to drink a ton of these in a day because it'll probably upset your stomach, but one every few days is really good. So I just wanted to share that because it's yummy, and I've got it in my tumbler, and I had put all I need is a little bit of coffee and a whole lot of Jesus on here, and some of them have come off, and my dad says, "Is that what your brain is like when you don't have coffee and Jesus?" And I'm like, exactly. Perfect. Anyway, it's really good. Today I wanted to talk about something that's totally not really related to decorating and home decor, which is normally the lane that I try to stay in, but I'm trying to branch out into some other types of favorite things, some more lifestyle favorite things on these Five Friday Fave videos. And today I wanted to talk about podcasts. I love podcasts. I am a huge fan of always learning, being a perpetual learner. I love to read, but I just don't have the time to read like I used to, and so I listen. And I love audiobooks, but I really love podcasts because they're condensed. They're you know, it's a point that they make in anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour, depending on the time, and I just love them. And I find myself listening to them every time I get in the car to take kids to school or to drop kids off, or travel. If I'm driving by myself, I just stick a DVD on in the back and listen to my podcast on the way to wherever I'm going. Love them. So I thought I would share. There's one podcast on here that is related to home decor. So if that's what you're interested in, then you're in luck. There are two on here that are related to business. So if you are an entrepreneur or in business of any kind, if you work at all, you can glean something from these podcasts. They're great. And then two of them are more lifestyle podcasts, just general good information, good fun stuff. So let's get into it. And podcasts, I have an iPhone. I think podcasts are available to anybody, but it's like there's like a purple app that comes on your phone, and I just subscribe to these. I subscribe to a lot of them, but these are my top 5. So I hope you'll like this list. My first one, I thought most people who follow me would be most interested in this one, and it's a podcast, and I got their book that I have because they're just great. If you've been around the home decor blogging community for long at all, you know who Sherry and John, I don't know how to say their last name, but they're the authors of Young House Love, the blog, and their Livable Home is the book that I have by them. But their podcast, this is a cute book. This is a great book. So if you want a decorating book, how to add beauty, get organized, and make your house work for you, tons of good tips. If you are into decorating, which I assume you are if you're here, their podcast is called Young House Love Has a Podcast. It's very easy to remember, but they are great. They're a couple. They have 2 kids. They've been blogging for over a decade, I think, and they are some of the original like DIY bloggers that anybody follows. They have wonderful tutorials on tons of detailed, super detailed tutorials on big DIY projects. They're really good at DIY. They're really good at telling you how to do it yourself. And so if you have, if you like that kind of thing, they would be great to follow. But they also are renovating 2 beach houses, and they're going to, I think, rent them out. I don't think they're flipping them. I think they're renting them out. And just their whole process. It's just really helpful for anybody that's a home person who loves home decor, home design, DIY projects, making a home your own. This is a great podcast. And yeah, so go check them out. And then the next one, number 2, is the only like guy podcast that I listen to. It's 2 guys that do this podcast, and it's called Story Brand, and it's a business podcast, and it is amazing. Tons of good information. Story Brand is all about running a business with clarity and being very clear about your message and how to share your message. And I have a lot of room to grow in this area, but I've been listening to their podcast for probably 6 months. And it's the one that every Monday when it releases, I listen to it first. If it's something that interests me, if it's something that's, that week or whatever is not like, doesn't pertain to me, then I might pass. But it's very rare that happens. I love, love, love this podcast. It's by Donald Miller. And if you, he had several like big books that were hits in the Christian market 15, 20 years ago, maybe. Blue Like Jazz was his first bestseller, but he has a book that just released in the fall or a few months ago called Building a Story Brand, and it is just all about clarifying your message for businesses. And so it's great. I'm halfway through it. But his podcast is just awesome. It's all about business ideas for having a successful, efficient business. Love it. And they're just genuine people. They just seem so genuine and so real. And they live in Nashville, which is where I'm from. So I feel like there's this connection there. But anyway, it's huge. Love it. The third one is a fun one. And it is two ladies who've been bloggers for a long time. Since a theme, it's a bloggers turned podcasters. But these are 2 ladies that are good friends. And basically, I think their podcast started like 10 years ago. They were like some pioneer podcasters. And I think they started by just talking on the phone. And basically, that's what they do. They're Boo Mama, who is Sophie Hudson. She blogs at Boo Mama something. And then Big Mama, which her name is Melanie Schenkel, and they're both authors, so you may have read their books. I don't have any of their books, but I just love listening to their podcasts because I feel like it's just hanging out with my friends. If I just want to veg and just like pretend like I'm talking to my best friends on the phone, then I listen to their podcast because they just share whatever's going on in their lives, and they give good recommendations. And I will say that if you're not a woman who loves SEC football, their podcast may not be for you because they love football, which I love football. And so when they're talking about football, I'm like, yes, women who love football. I love this. So that's really fun. What else? Yes, they're your people if you love the South and football. So number 1 is Young House Love Has a Podcast. Number 2 is Story Brand with Donald Miller. And number 3 is the Big Boo Cast. I don't think I said that. It's the Big Boo Cast with Big Mama and Boo Mama. Very good. Number 4 is called The Next Right Thing with Emily P. Freeman. And I feel like everybody has probably known who she is for forever except for me. She if I'm looking for just like a little nugget of wisdom, a little nugget of inspiration and encouragement, I listen to her podcast because they're short, like usually 15 minutes or less. And they're just so encouraging and inspirational. And her voice is so soothing. It's just like a breath of fresh air for your soul. And I wouldn't recommend listening to her if you're tired and on the road, because she might put you to sleep. Not because she's not good, but because her voice is so just like, such a nice sounding voice. But anyway, hers is just, it's short. It's so good for the soul. I think the ones that I was listening to most recently were just about like saying no and making your yes count and, you know, not being overcommitted. It's just such a breath of fresh air. I love her. And then the last one is it's definitely the one that I've listened to the least amount of time. I just started listening to it recently, and it's because I just discovered this girl. And if you follow me on Instagram, then you saw where I recommended her book, her latest book called Girl Wash Your Face. And the podcast is called the Deus podcast. I think I'm saying that right. I think I remember how to say that. Deus. I don't know what it stands for or what that means, but it's by Rachel Hollis. And if you are a woman entrepreneur, then you need to listen to this, especially if you're in the space of blogging. It is so good. It is so good. I feel like she's the blogger, or she's the podcaster that I listen to that's most like me and most understands the world that I work in and live in of women entrepreneurship. Whereas the Story Brand blog is like just business in general. This one is business in the blogging world and the Instagram world. And she gets that, and it's about women. So obviously I'm a woman, so that applies to me. So I love her book. If you have not picked up her book, I listened to it on audio on Audible, which is a subscription for audiobooks. You get one a month for, I think it's $14.99. Love Audible and love listening to audiobooks, but her book is probably one of my favorite to listen to online or on Audible because it is not super deep. It was just really good to listen. She reads it, so you get to hear it in her voice, but it's all these, what's the word? It's all these like false things that you believe about yourself. Like, I'm not a good mom, or I'm not, I don't, what are some other lies? I guess that's the one that stuck out to me the most. I'm not a good mom. I mean, she talks about all these lies that we believe about ourselves. Oh, I'm defined by how I look. She talks about just so many good things, and then how she combats those lies with the truth. And that is so where I am right now. It was so helpful. The book was so helpful, but her podcast is some of that, but it's more women entrepreneur. So if you're in that space, I highly, highly recommend this. And I have got to do something about this lighting situation. Like, this side of my face is dark, this side of my face is light. If I should probably turn the camera. Anyway, enough chit chat about that. So if you have any suggestions for any future Five Friday faves, then I would love to hear them. If you would like to hear about clothing or makeup or books, which I kind of just told you of some books, anything else, I'd love to hear it. But I hope to see you next week. Bye.